John Assaraf is the CEO of NeuroGym and one of the leading mindset and behavior experts in the world. He went from being a teen who was often getting in trouble with the law to writing 2 best-selling books, being featured in 8 movies, including the blockbuster hit The Secret, and building 5 multi-million-dollar companies.
Need motivation? Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like na 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 na. For my top 10, top 10, na 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 na. This one's for my top 10.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because you are probably the most ambitious person in your circle, but you know you're capable of more, and you get that push by surrounding yourself with the best. So today, let's learn from one of the best, John Assaraf, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Pay attention to your self-talk.
Self-talk is so critical. And so I'm consistently paying attention to how am I speaking to myself? Am I speaking to myself in a kind, motivating, empathetic, compassionate way? Or am I consistently self-deprecating and putting myself down? I used to think a lot, when I was younger, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not worthy. Those thoughts, and lots of fear of being embarrassed, fear of failure, fear of being ashamed. And I still have the thoughts every once in a while, especially when I'm setting new goals. Those come up, holy mackerel, they come up so freaking fast. Are you smart enough to achieve that? Are you good enough to achieve that? Even when I got into really diving deep into the brain science and even my new book, I was petrified to release my book. It took me 2 years to write it because now I'm entering another whole domain of neuroscience and neuropsychology with world-renowned experts that I've worked with for years. But now here I am putting myself out there with, hey, this is neuroscientifically correct. So I had to make sure that it was. But there was a lot of fear. But I understand what the emotion of fear is. It's a subconscious trigger that causes this feeling that I don't like. And it's a go signal for me, not a stop signal for me.
Rule number 2, have balance.
If you have a big enough reason why you want to achieve something, you'll do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
But if your reason isn't big enough, your excuses will be.
So it's a kind of balance.
It's always a balance, yeah. And we're always looking to be in harmony, right? We want harmony, just like an orchestra.
Yes.
And you want harmony between the different areas of your life so that it flows. And sometimes there's areas that are really great, areas that are not, and other times it's a little calmer. And the more you can be in that nice, gentle flow, the more your life works, and I find that the happier people are.
Rule number 3, visualize the obstacles.
In the past, I used to teach and also do visualize my goals. Whether it was my body, health, relationships, money, charity, whatever. I used to visualize the outcome. And some of the latest research now shows in addition to visualizing the outcome, visualize the obstacles. And in the past, when we talked about this law of attraction, no, don't visualize the obstacles, you attract them to it. No, your brain's way smarter than that. So if you have, whether it's a belief that's in your way, a story that's holding you back, a circumstance, references, something that's holding you back from achieving X. So take a look at whatever it is that you already know is holding you back. I don't believe I'm worthy. I don't believe I'm smart enough. Don't believe I'm good enough. Don't believe I'm skilled enough. I'm too young, too old. I'm too this or too that, or not enough of this, not enough of that. So address that and say, okay, here's an obstacle. I'm going to visualize that obstacle being real, and I'm going to visualize just moving it aside and me moving towards my goal. The very act of acknowledging that releases the neural tension around it. If you do that over and over and over again, what your brain starts to see is, yes, there was a struggle, and so it's worthy of me creating this neural pattern around this new effort. Because most of what we're doing is, we're on autopilot. We're just eking through the day, on autopilot. And so the brain loves anything that makes it curious. The brain likes anything novel. The brain likes a challenge. So earlier you were asking me about, one of the brain training companies other than ours. I said, does it work? I said, yeah, it's a workout for your brain. And if you can strengthen the neural patterns of you seeing yourself with an obstacle and overcoming it, what do you think that does to your self-confidence and certainty?
Builds it up big time.
Builds it up. So if you actually do the work and develop those patterns in your brain, as you're doing the stuff you need to do in the physical world, you just strengthen those neural patterns, and that's what becomes your habits.
Rule number 4, switch.
No matter what has happened to us in the past,
Yes.
whether it's a traumatic event, a failure, somebody who's hurt us, a mistake that we've made, we have to understand that the way that our brain works is it does as much as possible to move away from anything that could potentially hurt us. So the first thing that your brain does is keep you alive.
Yes.
But the second thing that it does is it keeps you away from hurting yourself. Whether it's real or imagined, your brain will move away first. And it'll do protection mechanism first. So if you've had an experience from the past where you've made a mistake or you've disappointed yourself, you've disappointed other people,
Your parents.
your teachers, your brothers, your sisters, your coworkers, your brain is always looking for associations and similarities in what you want to do that might lead to the same disappointment or the same pain that you've had before. And as soon as it senses any type of correlation, it lights up the part of the brain that remembers the past and brings all of your past into the present moment so you feel it and projects the possible negative consequences into the future. As soon as that happens, your motor cortex shuts off, the part of your brain that takes action and the motivational centers of your brain. It just shuts off. And what it does, it either fights it, it freezes so that you are paralyzed, or it makes you run away the other way.
Yeah.
So that's one part of the brain that works. But if you understand that when that happens, you have an emotion, and it might be an emotion of fear of disappointment, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of abandonment, fear of rejection. There's 50 or more fears that we have as human beings that we're always aware of in the environment. And if you realize that those fears are possible, but they're not certain, what we have to teach ourselves is to be aware that those are possible, not certain, but then to flip the switch to the left prefrontal cortex part of the brain, which is really the brain that comes up with solutions. It's the brain that comes up with, directions, instructions, strategies, and tactics on how to make it happen instead of all the things that could go wrong. So we have different parts of the brain that are responsible for different functions. Most people don't know that they can switch from this part of the brain to that part of the brain. They could lower the amygdala, part of the brain that's responsible for fear and the emotional response of fear in the brain that sends, epinephrine or cortisol, neurotransmitters in the brain that we feel in our body. And then we feel these neurotransmitters in our body, then we think about what we're feeling, and then we feel more about what we think about. And if that's what we only focus on,
yes,
then it keeps perpetuating the exact same cycle. But we have in
That's why
our control.
people are repeating same mechanism.
Right. Yeah, there's a term in the neuroscience field, in the brain research field, called repetition compulsion. So we have a compulsion to repeat things over and over and over again. Whether they're good or bad, it's irrelevant. So we will just keep repeating stuff. Even when we do things that don't give us the result that we want, we become addicted to that result and that emotional state in our brain and in our bodies.
Yeah.
And so if we repeat that over and over and over again, we become addicted to that emotional state, and then we just repeat it because it becomes automatic.
Hey, this is John Assaraf, and do you love good books? I love to read because there's so much wisdom in books. You get to take somebody else's knowledge, skills, research, pay $15, $20, and you learn so much. Now, I'm reading this awesome book called Built to Serve, find your purpose and become the leader you were born to be. And one of my new friends, really smart guy, really great guy who serves a lot of people, Evan Carmichael, wrote it. And I'm going to read a little bit from chapter number 1. And I love this piece, and maybe it's because I just watched the series on TV on Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, which is really great, by the way, also. One of the things he says here is everybody has Michael Jordan talent at something. Everybody has a Michael Jordan talent at something. You just haven't found it yet. Or you have and you don't believe in yourself enough to go all in. To go all in, right? And you're a genius. I believe you're a genius. And so does he. You're amazing. You are not meant to live a photocopy of someone else's life. You were not created to wake up and do work that is below your capabilities. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something, and you need to uncover exactly what your purpose is and how you can serve and use the serve. So lots of pearls and gems and motivational pieces. Pick up Built to Serve. Evan Carmichael, rising star.
Rule number 5, understand the mechanics.
Fear is an emotion. Emotions are all triggered at the subconscious level. They release neurochemicals that causes a feeling. We are consciously aware of feelings that are triggered at the subconscious level. The feeling is the end point of the human experience in the physical body. And so when you have something in your brain that a neural network says, well, what if this book comes out and you fail? What if it's not good enough? What is scientifically not correct? What if? My brain's going to process that the same way as your brain and everybody else's brain, because everybody's brain's the same. The mechanism of how the brain works, it's Einstein's brain, Hitler's brain, Genghis Khan's brain, Tom Bilyeu's brain, John Astor's brain, all the same functionality. So if you understand the mechanics of what's supposed to happen, then you say, okay, great. When I feel this, then what am I going to do? So I like to use an analogy of a car. You're driving a car, and you're talking to a friend of yours, and a light pops up on the dash. You don't take a hammer and hit a light. It's a signal. Something's happening in the engine, in the trunk, in the tires. Something's happening. Emotions and feelings aren't positive or negative. They're empowering or disempowering to varying degrees if you don't understand them.
Rule number 6, meditate.
What does your morning routine look like now?
Oh, great.
What's
So today was a little bit different, except for one thing, because I drove from San Diego to LA to be with you. But I wake up, I pee, I do my meditation, 20 to 30 minutes every morning. I don't care where I am in the world. At
what do you
least one a
focus
day.
on during that time?
I do a variety of different meditations. So there's meditations that I can do where I'm just observing my thoughts. Now, a lot of people think, well, I thought you're not supposed to have thoughts when you meditate. Says whom? There's hundreds of different ways to practice awareness. See, meditation is the art of awareness. Awareness internally, awareness externally, but also the various millions of layers that exist in the physical and the non-physical world. So this morning, I did a meditation with some ocean sounds. And so it was about 5 o'clock. I woke up this morning, sat in my little sofa, with my feet propped up, and did a 20-so minute meditation in the dark with the ocean, just listening to the ocean, just paying attention and going into a trance-like state where after 2 or 3 minutes, I disappeared. Like my body was part of air and space. So today I was using sound to get into that trance-like state. Other days I'll do a mantra, whether it's, a lot of people know transcendental meditation. So it's the Om mantra. So you just take a deep breath in. And then as you exhale, it's Om. And the question is, why would you do that? And the answer is anytime you can give your brain a rhythm, it will entrain to that rhythm. That's one. Anytime you could pay attention to your breath, inhale and exhale, you turn off the parasympathetic nervous system. You turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and relaxation and your calm state of flow, versus your sympathetic nervous system, which is the stress response system of adrenaline, norepinephrine, cortisol, etc. So when you get the serotonin, oxytocin, and dopamine going, and you're in that state of calmness, you're able to enter deeper levels of consciousness and awareness. So you're able to observe a thought. You're able to hear your heartbeat. You're able to sense different things that are being risen in your body through thoughts that you're having. So you can actually start to see, when I have this thought, here's the sensation in my body. And you start to get so tuned to what's happening, what stimuli is happening within you that's producing these sensations that cause you to either take action or not, retreat or move forward. You can start to get a feel for how the mechanics work. So I'll do that. Sometimes I'll put on some of the Tibetan monks and chant with them. So I use sound, no sound. I use breathing. I use open eye, closed eye, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes. So I practice the art of being in control of my breath, not breathing, just being one with the entire universe and feeling this other than normal state of consciousness that we're used to. And it's not sleep, and it's not, conscious awareness. You're in an altered state of awareness, and you can enter deeper and deeper and deeper layers of energy, which everything is made up anyway. Everything's connected. We have this, obviously, our physical body, but the space between you and I right now, there's just vibrating packets of energy, right? And so you're able to access different layers of all of the intelligence and information that already exists in the universe versus the memories that we have in our brains. And that's magical.
Rule number 7, follow the 5R principle.
We developed our company at Praxis. We developed a process called the 5R process. And the first R stands for recognize your thought patterns, recognize your emotions, recognize your behaviors, and ask yourself, are they going to move me towards what I want or away from what I want?
Okay, so you don't try to change anything, just ask yourself.
You recognize, just become more aware. And then instead of reacting to what you don't like, you learn how to respond. That's the second R. So recognize, then respond. Can I change this? Can I change the meaning of this? Can I change the emotion of this? Can I change, anything about this that is destructive? And the answer is yes.
Yeah.
The third part is to reframe anything that doesn't work for you. So whether it's a person, a situation, a circumstance, how can you reframe it? Look at it from a different point of view so that it doesn't have the same meaning anymore. And one of the things that we know is the meaning that we give anything determines how we feel about it.
Yes.
The meaning we give it, nothing has a meaning independent of our own thoughts and meanings. So can we reframe something, look at it a different way, emotionalize it a different way, so that we can use it as opposed to it using us? The fourth part is when we're feeling a negative or destructive emotion, can we, through breathing exercises, through reframing, release that emotion? Because every emotion is a wave. So there are 6 main emotions that we have. There's sub-emotions as well, but we feel fear, anger, sadness, happiness, disgust, etc. And those cause us to feel a certain way. So is there a way for us to release the unpleasant emotions? There's not good or bad emotions. They're pleasant or unpleasant.
Yeah.
And that comes directly from one of my dear friends, Dr. Joan Rosenberg, who's an emotional mastery expert.
Wow.
And so when you think about, is this emotion pleasant? Yes, okay, good, let's do more of that. Is this emotion unpleasant? Okay, well, what's causing it? Usually what's causing it is something from my past that is telling me that whatever's happening.
Maybe I can reproduce it.
Well, if it's a unpleasant emotion, usually it's a memory from the past versus reality. And so when you learn that emotions last 90 seconds to a minute and 20 seconds, 2 minutes, and if you just observe it and feel the emotion, it's like a wave. Feel the emotion without getting into the reaction of the emotion. Observe it. Now you're in control of the emotion. Now you're learning to surf the wave instead of being hit by the wave. And then the fifth part is now to retrain your brain. So recognize, respond, reframe, release, and now I want to retrain my brain to have a different thought pattern, a different emotional response, and a different behavior so that I change the pattern in my brain so it doesn't happen again. And if you do that 1 time, 5 times, 10 times, 20 times, the same thought or the same emotion or the same circumstance won't have the same power to cause you to freeze or run away or fight. Now we're starting to get in control.
Yeah, it's great.
Of
Great
our
process.
own,
I love it.
of our own brains, our own emotions, and now we can start to use the spiritual side of our being, the higher side of our being, to move towards the greatness that I think is within every human being.
Rule number 8, develop habits at a non-conscious level.
Setting goals is an intellectual and imagined exercise that your conscious brain, right? I'm going to show you one of the little brains today from the sitting here on my desk. Your conscious brain, left prefrontal cortex specifically, where you get to choose. What is it you would love to have your life be like? What is the imagination, of the ideal life that you'd like? He says everybody could do that. He says, but achieving goals happens as a result of having the right beliefs, perceptions, habits, attitudes at the non-conscious level, where all of the habits reside. Part of the hippocampus, part of your brain that drives your automatic behavior day in and day out is what is going to determine whether you achieve those goals or not. He says, using willpower to achieve goals is like using gunpowder. It's just a starter. Using resilience or using your imagination, those are all really good conscious abilities that anybody can use. He says, but if you don't develop the habits at the non-conscious level, which include your self-image for how you see your life, you're never going to achieve those goals.
Rule number 9, believe.
When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I moved from Israel to Montreal. I spoke Hebrew, but not English or French. And for 2.5 years, I felt dumb. I felt like I wasn't smart enough and I wasn't good enough and I was made fun of as a kid. That led to me being involved in street gangs from the age of 12 to 16.
Wow. In Montreal?
In Montreal.
Wow.
We trafficked drugs from Florida. We did break-in entries. We had a little street gang, about 12 of us that just got into a lot of trouble. My path was either jail or the morgue, one of the two. And there's a lot of successful people that have that kind of a story for some strange reason. And at 19, I met a mentor. His name was Alan Brown. He was a real estate developer.
Still in Montreal.
No, this was I moved from Montreal after years of turbulence. I finally broke free and moved from Montreal to Toronto, which is about 350 miles.
Gotcha. In Canada still.
Canada, yeah. And May 1980, I took my real estate course. June 20th, 1980, I became licensed as a real estate agent. And the reason I did is I met a man the weekend before that my brother introduced me to, who was into personal development.
Yeah.
And he was into, Zig Ziglar and Dennis Waitley and Brian Tracy's, 35 years ago. And he introduced me to this world of the mind, introducing me to the world of changing my beliefs, changing my habits, changing my perceptions of first, who are you? And he really helped me see that, the spiritual greatness within everybody, the intelligence that's within everybody. He had me start with getting in touch with that. And it was very philosophical and didn't have the evidence that we have today on affirmations, visualization, meditation, mindfulness, subliminal programming, habit creation, all of the different methodologies that we've all heard about, whether it was the astronauts that went to the moon initially that trained their brains, or the musicians that have, or the athletes that do. The science now is just so phenomenal on what is actually happening. And so as I was building my own companies, I built my companies by training my employees not on the skills that they needed, but on how spectacular they were as human beings. And the greatness was within them. And if they trained their brain to have the belief that is, they may not have the skill or the know-how, but if you have the belief that I can, I will, I must.
You can build the habit.
You can
start
build the
taking action.
habit. You can start to. If you think about this, I don't care if we asked any question on health, wealth, relationships, career, business, spirituality, we wanted to find the answer to something.
Yeah.
We could Google it and within minutes have everything we want to know about it.
Tutorials, everything we need.
Tutorials, videos, audios, how to, step-by-step, blueprint, color coordinate, whatever you want. So our problem isn't how to. All the how to exists. How to build a business exists. How to be a great lover exists. It all
Everything.
exists.
How to get in shape. Yes.
Right. So I wanted to focus on, how do I help more people take more of the action they know they should be and want to?
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is manage your mindset.
We have this phenomenal brain, right? It's genius abilities. We can't figure out how to replicate it anywhere with billions of dollars, but we are getting some of the user's manual now. So when you feel fear, what should you do? I teach the first 2 exercises that I teach every one of our students. Number 1 is called Take 6, Calm the Circuits. So if you have this unpleasant, anxious, fearful emotion, energy in motion, right? And it's unpleasant, and the brakes have gone on. If you just take 6 deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth like you're breathing through a straw, you will deactivate the stress response center, which means blood is going to go back to the left prefrontal cortex. The Einstein part of the brain can actually think through this problem, because what happens when the stress response center is activated, blood goes away from that into the fear response. So you have epinephrine, cortisol, adrenaline to be able to get you out of the situation. It's part of our instinctual brain, part of the reptilian brain. The first part of the brain that was developed was that, then the mammalian brain, the limbic system, then the neocortex, the thinking brain. So when our brain has this signal of, oh my God, you might get hurt, you might lose this, you might get in trouble, you might be embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, etc., that part of the brain is going to get activated. So if you take 6 deep breaths first, calm down, calm the circuits first, then do exercise number 2 is called AYA, A-I-A. The first A is for awareness. What am I thinking right now? What am I feeling right now? What am I sensing right now? What is my behavior right now? So you thoughts, feelings, sensations, awareness of behavior. What's my intention right now? That's the I. Well, my intention is to move forward. I want to do this. Great. What's one very small action step that you can take? Now, the reason you want to take one small action step is one small action step your brain can handle. If it's one small step towards it, the threat response goes away. But if you focus on the end game right away, you're going to get that rush and that instant trigger of the fear response, stress response. So the first thing you want to do is learn how to manage your mindset and what you focus on. Learn how to manage your emotions, because they drive your behavior more than anything else, because we move away from pain and we move towards pleasure, but we move away from pain 1,000 times faster. And pain wires in the brain faster for survival mechanisms. So purely from a neuroscience perspective, just understanding self, once you understand, oh, okay, this feeling is normal, okay, what should I do? Take 6, calm the circuits, AYA, and now you can start being progressive and make progress towards what you want.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from John on how to be committed that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the question of the day. I want to know, Where do you need to better manage your mindset? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you made it this far in the video, you're still here watching, I want to celebrate you because Believe Nation, we don't just watch videos, we do something about it. So if that's you and you commit, you promise you're going to take action immediately after watching this video, give me a hashtag Believe down in the comments and tell me where you're from because I want to celebrate you.
Are you interested in achieving that vision for your life? Are you interested in achieving those goals, or are you committed? Are you interested or are you committed? And I didn't know what the difference really was at the time. And so I asked him, Mr. Brown, what's the difference? And he said to me, he says, if you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. If you're interested, you'll use the fact that you didn't like school and you didn't do well in school to control your thinking and your self-esteem. He said, if you're interested, you'll come up with stories and excuses why you can't achieve those goals and dreams that you shared with me. You'll come up with stories and excuses as to why you don't want to do the work necessary to grow and to learn what you need to learn. He says, however, if you are committed, he says, you will do whatever it takes. You will upgrade your knowledge, you'll upgrade your skills, you'll become who you need to become, and you'll learn from whoever you need to learn to be able to achieve those goals and dreams. So, lesson number 1 is no matter what goal or vision you have, ask yourself that question, okay? Are you interested in achieving that goal and dream? Or are you really, really, really committed and willing to do whatever it takes?
If you want 10 more awesome rules from John Assaraf, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
It's something that you're doing to interpret an event that's causing the neuroelectrical signal, causing the feeling.